Catherine, your Miss Wildflower Volunteer, and this is Behind the Sash, where we showcase the other side of pageantry, the memories, missteps, and mishaps that happen during our years as title holders. So this is the big secret I was keeping from y'all. This is a project I've been working on for so long. I originally had this idea when I was still Miss Wildflower Volunteer, but since I was about to give up my title, I figured that I should probably just focus on pageant week, preparing for pageant week, and start up the podcast like a little bit later when I was a little bit more settled into everything. It's been a couple of weeks of class already, so I've kind of gotten in my groove. So I'm honestly just really excited to be starting this project. So a little bit about me and my CERT project. My CERT project is This Is Me, Mental Health Education, and the background on that is that I started struggling with mental health at a really young age, and we were in a little bit more of a rural area of Montana. We were outside the city limits of Billings, but it was still a small school, small neighborhood. The age where dial-up was still prevalent, so we didn't even have like a family computer or anything. We only had like a family flip phone, so I couldn't go on the World Wide Web and figure out what was wrong with me. That didn't end up happening until we moved into a more urban area when I was in middle school, and even then I still didn't really know what was going on. I didn't know what my resources were or anything like that. So I don't want not knowing what your resources are, not knowing what's going on to be a barrier for anybody with mental health or who may be dealing with negative mental health. So that's really why I chose it. Now, like This Is Me, part of it, I want to show that, you know, mental health doesn't just affect a small percentage of people, because usually when people think about mental health, they think about schizophrenia, like the really intense and extreme mental health conditions, instead of depression, anxiety that might affect somebody like a title holder within a pageant organization or a teacher or whoever. They don't think about that. So I wanted to show that, like, yeah, it does affect everybody. Like, this isn't affecting a specific demographic of people. This affects a lot of different people, and there are a lot of different ways it can present itself. So why did you choose your organization? Kind of a funny story about that. I actually chose the Miss Wildflower Volunteer organization because of my stepdad. He was talking with one of the members on the board of directors, Terry, and he was talking with Terry, and he was saying, like, you have a daughter in college, right? Like, this might be really cool for her, because I know that you mentioned that she's doing it on her own. She needs scholarships. Like, that might be something really cool for her. So he pitched the idea to me, and I was kind of hesitant about it, but I was like, you know what? Let's just do it. And it so happened to be that was the year that Liliana competed, our Miss Wildflower Volunteer 2023, Liliana Johnson. I was going to compete with her in her year, but pageant week coincided directly during the same week that I had planned a trip to Scotland, and this had been in the works for about 2 or 3 years now. I was supposed to go during COVID, but Scotland didn't want me, which is fair. Like, we were supposed to go like right during the middle of the pandemic, so Scotland was like, no, you're not coming here. So we had to push it off. And so yeah, it was really unfortunate that that happened that way, but that gave me a year to kind of sit on it, to think about it a little bit more. And so I ended up competing with Grace the following year, our Miss Wildflower Volunteer 2024. I ended up competing with her when she won. And I competed again this past summer with Madeline, our Miss Wildflower Volunteer 2025. So, and that's kind of why I chose my organization. And I got to say, I love Miss Wildflower Volunteer Board, the family, the sisterhood. I love it. Okay, what plans do you have for your year? I have some, well, this is obviously one of them. Another plan that I have for my year is doing some more collaborative work with some of our other local title holders. We have a lot more local title holders than we did last year, which I am super, super excited for. And we also how many are we have? There's 4 of us in Bozeman as well, going to college in Bozeman at Montana State. So we all have a group chat, and we are all planning on doing some collaborative projects together, one of which is the Out of the Darkness walk on Sunday when I'm filming this. It's going to be on the 8th, so I'm really excited to do that. We made a team. We're going to go walk to support the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention and to show our support for suicide prevention and mental health education. So I'm really excited. It's going to be me Britain, our new Miss Huckleberry Volunteer, Bryn, our Miss Badlands Volunteer, and Gabe, our Miss Prairie Volunteer. We're all going to be walking together, so I'm really excited about that. All right, what was your favorite part of pageant week? This is going to sound super, super cheesy, but I have to say the sisterhood, and just building the sisterhood and building the friendships and the memories with all these girls is so beyond amazing. Like, I'm still in contact with the girls I competed with last year, so sometimes I'll text them and just be like, yo, remember that time that happened? All right, what is one mishap that happened during your year thus far? One of my biggest mishaps, or missteps, I should clarify that, missteps, was actually during pageant week. We were working on our group walk for swim in our heels, and I completely ate it. I tripped. I don't know how it happened, but I tripped and I fell right on my knees, and I like kneed my way off the step up off the platform runway thing, and I kneed my way off, and I got back in line to finish out doing our group walk, and Bryn, Miss Badlands Volunteer, was right next to me, and we were both laughing so hard. And Alyssa, our inaugural Miss Montana Volunteer, was supposed to be filming it, keyword like supposed to be filming it for, you know, behind the scenes, like backstage, looking at rehearsals, video that plays during competition nights. So I fell, I get off, I immediately, once our group walk's done, I take my swimsuit heels off because I was not going to trip and fall again. And I go up to Alyssa and I'm like, Alyssa, I've got to see that. That's going on the video. I've got to see that because that probably looks so hilarious, like me just sneaking my way down the runway. And so she puts the camera down on the table and she goes to hit the button to stop recording, and it starts recording. And I paused for a second and I was like, Alyssa, were you not filming that entire time? And she just looks at me and she was like, Megan, I don't think I was. So unfortunately, my little misstep will never see the light of day because Alyssa was not recording, and I am so upset. That would have been absolute gold. It would have been so funny. I know Leslie, our photographer, would have seen that and would have just been like, oh yeah, that's Megan. That tracks. So that was definitely one mishap that happened during my year so far. All right, favorite memory from your year as a title holder. So I have not gotten to do much with my Miss Wildflower title yet, but I have 3 favorite memories from my year as Miss Huckleberry Volunteer. I cannot choose between any of the 3. They all impacted me in different ways. I love all 3 of them equally. The first one is when I was at a trunk or treat in Belgrade. A mom came up to me and was asking me about my title, my serve project. I was talking with her about it, and I told her it was like my serve project being mental health education. And she very jokingly just like bowed to me, and that made me feel so awesome because at this point I had only done a handful of events with my local tile, so I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know if I was doing anything right. I didn't know if there was a right way to do anything, which, you know, there is. But that felt so amazing that a mom, like a stranger, had faith in me and told me that I was doing good in her own silly way. So that made me feel really amazing. And that definitely, whenever I was having a rough time with something, or I was like, I don't know if I'm doing this right, I just thought back to that memory and I was like, that mom thinks you're doing right. You're probably doing something right. So that was really, really awesome. And then my second one happened a couple of months later in December at the Christmas stroll in downtown Bozeman. I was selling buttons to have kids get their picture taken with Santa, and one of the kids came up to me and he was like, you know, my favorite ice cream is Huckleberry. And I was like, oh really? And he was like, wait, no, it's my second favorite. And so I asked him, I was like, well, what's your first favorite? He looked at me and he like thought for a second. He said, strawberry. He asked me, he was like, well, what's yours? And I told him, I said, I really do like Huckleberry, but I also really love mint chocolate chip. And so his dad was standing kind of behind him. So he turns around, he looks up at his dad and he says, Dad, can we go get her ice cream? And there was another person volunteering with me. I look over at them and I told him, I was like, that child is not coming back with ice cream, but I appreciate the sentiment. It was so cute. It was so random, but it was so cute, and I absolutely love it. Just the look that kids get on their faces when they look at you and they're like, oh my gosh, you're a princess. It is the absolute sweetest thing ever, but they look at you like you're a princess. It is so sweet. All right, and then my third one was actually at my last event with my local title. I was tabling resources with the Gallatin Valley chapter of the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention. And that event in general was like a really emotional one for me for a couple of different reasons. First being it was my last event with my title. And then the second being because I was tabling resources, a lot of people came up and asked me about their situations, which was difficult but rewarding, if that makes any sense, because I got to see the light bulbs going off in people's brains. I got to see like their gears turning and kind of understanding and taking in what I was saying. But one person stood out to me, and she was a teacher, and one of her kids had unfortunately committed suicide. She was just beating herself up about it, wondering what she could have done differently. And I told her, like, you're okay to mourn that life, but we can't focus on that because you might miss your next kids and you might miss what they're going through. And I just saw a light bulb go off in her head, and I gave her some resources that the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention, AFSP, gives and gears specifically towards schools and middle school and high school students. And I told her that they also do a lot of presentations. So if she wanted, like, she could schedule to have a presenter come in and show her kids this stuff as well. But that was really, oh, actually it's 3.5, sorry. It's favorite memories, because I definitely do love the teacher story, but also at the same event where I was tabling at Bozeman Pride, a woman was about like a couple feet away from me, and she immediately just goes, oh my gosh, isn't Miss Huckleberry and I'm about to meet her, just fangirling. It was so absolutely amazing to be able to see that and hear that, because it was, you know, it's my last event. I'm a little emotional about it. So that was really awesome to hear. All right, favorite memory from pageant week. See, this one is a little bit more difficult because I loved every part of pageant week. So there's a couple, I don't want to spoil anything, but Grace's sour cream incident from this past year, this past June, Grace's sour cream incident has got to be one of my favorite memories. And I'm not going to tell the story because I want Grace to come on here and tell about it herself, because it is so hilariously funny. I could not stop laughing, and there is one of my favorite pictures of Grace ever is from her sour cream incident. So when I get Grace on here, because I'm going to get Grace on here at some point. Grace, if you are listening or if you are watching, you are coming on the show. You do not have a choice, and you are talking about your sour cream incident because the people need to see the photo. I think you know which photo I'm talking about, but people need to see it and people need to hear about it. So that was probably my favorite memory. All right. And then I just have 2 more questions on here. What advice do you have for those who are thinking about competing? Do it. Honestly, just do it. And if you are concerned or if you have any questions about it, like, talk to your board of directors, talk to the current title holder in the system you want to compete in, talk to the local title holders in that system. Like, you don't really have much to lose. So I would say to just do it. If you don't win, you're still going to win scholarships. You're going to win an amazing sisterhood of fabulous women who are doing amazing things in their line of work, in their communities. And you are going to grow as a person. I could not tell you the amount of growth that happened between my last year and this year. So much happened. I am a more confident person. I am more comfortable in my own body, in my own skin. It is absolutely game-changing what even just 1 week, 1 weekend, 1 pageant will do to you as a person and how it will help you grow as a person. And then what is one mental health mantra or habit that you live by? One mantra that I live by, it's not exactly mental health, it's kind of mental health related, is to be the adult your younger self needed. Because when I was little, when I was a kid, I didn't have any adults who were going through something similar that felt comfortable talking about it. I didn't know what resources I had. I didn't know what it was called. I didn't know what my next steps were. And because I was a kid, because I was a child, I still needed my parents to sign off for my doctor's appointments, drive me to my doctor's appointments, all that fun jazz. So it was also really difficult to get them to listen, to get any adults to listen, really. So I kind of just became the adult who listens. And I listen to anybody who tells me, like, hey, I think I might be having a rough time with my mental health, and I try to help them and give them resources as best as I can. But I can only hope that I am doing little Megan proud, because really hope that if little me met adult me, little me would feel comfortable with adult me and feel comfortable talking about her struggles. And, you know, maybe if there was an adult like me in her life, then maybe things would have happened differently and it wouldn't have taken me a couple of years to get help like I needed. But that's one mantra that I live by. All right, but that is all the time that we have today. Once again, if you want to more of this, to hear more of this, we are definitely planning on doing some more, but that is all that I have for y'all's today. Once again, I'm Megan McCatherine, your Miss Wildflower Volunteer, and thank you for tuning in to the first ever episode of Behind the Sash.